Do you guys remember this douchebag? Yeah, it's been a minute. We haven't heard a whole lot out of him lately, have we? Well, he just signed a whole bunch of executive orders dealing with gun control. And I hear you say, Kurt, executive orders don't really apply to us. Yeah, sorta. They apply to the executive agencies under his control. And what this means is this is telegraphing what we can expect agencies like the ATF to change as far as rules are concerned coming down the pipe. So this is not only telegraphing what the ATF is going to do next, but also what a Harris administration would look like should she get elected, and what the wish list actually looks like, because they don't even bother doing the, nobody's taking your guns anymore, and then waiting for the next sentence to tell you how they're going to take your guns. Now they're doing like a semicolon. They don't even start a new sentence. It's like, we're not going to take your guns, semicolon, this is how we're going to take your guns. And in this video, we're going to go through what exactly they plan to do so that you are better informed, so that we can poke holes in this narrative that they aren't rabidly anti-gun. And then also, of course, I got to do my stamp in time so that later when it comes down the pipe, I can be like, see, I predicted that. That more after we hear from today's sponsor. Sights are very much a point of personal preference for people, and my personal preference is for the big dot sight from XS. Now, they make a whole bunch of different variations out there, but generally speaking, what you're looking at is a photoluminescent ring that charges up with the ambient light, and then a tritium vial in the center. So regardless of lighting conditions outside, there'll be something for you to pick up. Now, I've been working with XS for a long period of time. I was a client of theirs before they were a client of mine, and I thank them very much for being a supporter of the mission here at the VSO Gun Channel for a long period of time. Go give them some love. On June 25th, President Biden signed into law the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, and on September 22nd, 2023, to help drive further progress, President Biden established the first ever White House of overseen by Vice President Harris. Under the leadership of Vice President Biden and President Harris, in 2023, the United States experienced the single largest homicide rate drop in recent history. Stop, full stop, time out, full stop. What they're trying to do here is say that we did this thing in Congress under our administration, and then because nobody else implemented it, we implemented it at the executive level most of the way through the year. And because of that, we had no more violence. Bullshit. What happened was crime was going through the roof because the country was running rampant because of your failed, terrible policies. And everybody went out and bought guns to defend themselves from that violence. The largest contributors to that were women and minorities. We're fed up with this. We're going to go get some guns and not be taken advantage of anymore. That's what dropped crime in the United States, not this crap that you're claiming. All right, Kurt, come on, buddy. We haven't even made it through the intro yet. Combating emerging threats. You guessed it. Ghost guns, bro. Machine gun conversion devices and unserialized 3D printed firearms. I told you that they were going to do this. I told you that if you had a 3D printer, they were going to come for you. And they haven't changed the rule yet, they tried to change the rule with the frame and receivers thing, but that wasn't definitive enough. So what they're going to be doing here, while that thing is being litigated still, because remember, the status quo of this is to write the executive order, change the rule, throw it out there, and see what the courts say. And then it's going to take 5 years, 2 years, whatever it is, to litigate that thing. And in the meantime, they're going to infringe on your God-given, constitutionally enshrined, inalienable rights. Machine gun conversion devices enable semi-automatic firearms, including easily concealable handguns, to match or exceed the rate of fire of many military machine guns. So, to me, that language is really important. If it's already a machine gun, then how can it match the rate of fire of a machine gun? It is a machine gun. So, what that means to me is that they're going to go after your simulated devices. So they already tried to do the bump stock thing, and that failed miserably. And it is going to hamstring their effort to go after these in the future, because that is a ruling that has taken a long time to litigate, but it is now on the books from the Supreme Court that the Cargill case said, no, that's outside your statutory scope. But what they're going to do is say, oh, well, that was a bridge too far. So now we're going to go after things like the FRTs. We're going to go after the binary triggers and things like that. I strongly believe that the next round of rule changes on machine gun conversion devices are going to include that kind of thing. It'll be a blurb there. It'll be a small thing, but I guarantee you that will be in whatever new definition they try to write from the ATF. Unserialized 3D printed firearms can be used for illegal purposes such as gun trafficking, etc., etc., etc. It has been a thing to make your own weapons of war since before this country was a country. You have always been able to do this. Even under British rule, you were able to do this, and it ain't changing anytime soon. They're trying to do that, and they'll put a rule in here that says that you can't do this sort of stuff, and then it'll go to the Supreme Court and get shot down because there's no text history and tradition to support that, but it will take years. So I told you they were coming for you on your 3D printers, and what this is going to look like, mark my words, and I'm going to put my prediction in here soon, is that they are going to create a threshold by which you have committed a federal crime when it pertains to 3D printing firearms components. Now, some people have gone all the way to say that they're going to go after when you purchase a 3D printer. You have to have a federal firearms license to produce a 3D printer. I don't think that's likely going to happen, okay? I think that that's probably a little bit too strong and overreaching on their, all of it's an overreach, but overreaching to the point where it would be easily contested. I think what they're likely to do is create a threshold of, is it when you download the file? Is it when you generate the G code? Who knows? But somewhere along the way, they're going to create a threshold of where that crime occurs, and that will be expressly an ATF rule. And that's going to have really big ramifications. Of course, it's all unconstitutional. They can't do it. It has ramifications to the First, Second, and Fourth Amendments. So it will take time, but I guarantee you that this is where they're going next. I do want to highlight this lie here before we move on. Some 3D printed firearms can be made to be undetectable by magnetometers. That is not true. The only ones that have been demonstrated explode. They blow up in your hand. You have to have metal components. They're trying to say something about the Undetectable Firearms Act here. The Undetectable Firearms Act was something that was instituted from a time period where people were brain dead on firearms. It's not that they're given a very good showing here, but what I'm telling you is that these do not exist. Oh, that's unenforceable. How on earth are they going to accomplish that? Yeah, well, this says that they're going to pull resources from several different agencies to surveil you. Improving school-based active shooter drills. Yeah, this is actually something that does need to happen. It is not uniform across the country, SOPs for dealing with active shooters. Do we wait for several people to show up before we go in? Do we go in immediately? It should be stop the threat immediately. If you're the first person there, you go in there, guns blazing, and take that threat out. And we need look no further than Uvalde. So those are the things that are executive order. Federal agencies go and do this thing. Then there are some enhancements for states because they know that they can't have the resources to do this at the federal level, and there's no way that they can get it passed through Congress with the current makeup of Congress. Now, if they have all houses of government, that changes substantially, but this is what they want to do, and this is what they're encouraging states to do. Safe storage. Yeah, that means weapon, ammunition, separate, in the safe, locked up, right? That is to make Americans victims of crimes. If you can't have a loaded weapon in your house and it has to be in safe storage, like in the state of California, this is not fake. This is not made up. This is happening right now in crazy bastions like that, right? They want this to be nationwide. And if they get the edge to do it federally, they will, but they know that they're just going to enhance this at the state level. Same thing with medical staff, doing the same thing with medical staff. Red flag laws and screwing with 18 to 20-year-olds. Again, enhancing background checks on people who are 18 to 20 years old. An 18 to 20-year-old is a second-class citizen, and all they need to do to accomplish this is make a call to federal firearms licensees and say, you will do this or we will take your license, and it'll be implemented immediately. So you've got a United States citizen that can be compelled to join the armed forces and sent to some war zone somewhere and be killed, but they can't have a gun when they're at home. They have to go through this enhanced scrutiny to be able to purchase firearms. They have no recourse to grieve their government because they're broke, and that pisses me off. And then the last thing that I want to highlight before we go today is actually something that I don't think that they realize, that they just spelled the end of the gun buyback. So there was a story that we covered on more than one occasion here where basically the business model looks like this. The private entity receives firearms that are to be destroyed from the gun buyback, and they offer the destruction service to the law enforcement agency at no cost. In exchange, they say, we get to keep the non-regulated components and we can do whatever we want with them. And they're selling those on the open market, right? Well, this new thing is saying that they have to destroy all of the components. Well, what that's going to do is basically require the law enforcement agency to pay that company. Now, I'm on record saying that they should charge $10,000 for a pop, a unit, for each of those destroyed firearms. I think that that's the way it ought to go. They ought to bankrupt them for doing this kind of evil activity. But that's probably wishful thinking. However, what I will say is it will absolutely end the ability of law enforcement agencies to get away with doing these things for free. They're going to have to build into their budget the disposition fees and the destruction fees for these types of things, because these companies are no longer going to be able to recoup the expenditure of performing these kinds of services. So gun buybacks going down in a hard way. And I don't think that these people actually realize that they just did that. Anyway, that's what I got for you guys today. Happy weekend, everybody, if you do that sort of thing. And hopefully we'll see another video here on the VSO Gun Channel.